Okay, well, this is, I believe, the third session, third installment. A lot has taken place since the last one in December. Optimistic concurrency is now in the system. Stability has been vastly improved. The store interface has wildly changed and shrunk. So a lot of cruft has been removed. A lot of great things have been added. The Postgres store is now, in my mind, stable. I believe, Jordas, you asked about seeing the different stores. I can give a quick demonstration of how you can work with this thing. So let me just clear a few things out. So in the base package, there's a command directory, and there's a few programs in the command directory. There's the RangeDB, which is just an example main application on how you could run the whole system, and it wires up the WebSocket API, the gRPC API, the web UI, and hosts them on a Mux server. So if you don't want to have the web API and you want to run Event Store, or you want to run RangeDB, you can do that. If you just want to have WebSockets, you can do that too. If you just want to have gRPC, like you have kind of a lot of options here, and you can swap out the backend store. So if you want to have an in-memory store, right here. So this is how you set up a Postgres store, a level DB store, and then an in-memory store. So you can kind of pick and choose how you want to run the system. But this command, if you just want to toy around with it, you can run it like this. You can also run it with Docker run. I'll just show you an example in the README. Actually, I think it's on the project webpage, GitHub webpage. It's equivalent to running this. So the command I'm going to show you right here, that's equivalent. And this will start up an in-memory instance, and it's listening on a web port here. Oops. I'll just refresh it here. So it starts up with no events in the system, and gRPC is listening on this port. So I can have this thing connect. There's another command called gRPC event subscriber, and this just reaches out to the store and connects. So now it's subscribing to all events. And there's another command to generate random events. Generate random events, and it will just create a bunch of events and then shove them in the system. So our gRPC subscriber is just listening and just printing them out. And if we, oh, I want to stop this one. I want to resubscribe. So resubscribing starts from the beginning in this example. You can also subscribe from point in time, or a global sequence number, or just subscribe from here forward. If I refresh, you can see that I just shoved in, 91,000 things. If I want to shove in a different type, yeah,
does a web server have WebSocket?
Say again?
Does the web server support WebSocket?
Yes. So there's another command called WebSocket Event Subscriber. So I can subscribe to all events using WebSockets. So the top one is WebSockets. This one's gRPC. Once this one's caught up, I'll shove some more events in. So I'll shove some that was done. I refresh. There's a bunch of that's going in the system. If you just want to subscribe to a different aggregate type. So I want to get things, or how about another? So I'm only going to subscribe to another events in this one. That's the aggregate type. And the top one is WebSocket subscribing to everything. So if I shove some more of that, goes in. If I shove in another, then this one's picking up just those aggregate types. If you have a projection that only cares about certain types of events, then it doesn't have to. If there's a billion events in the system, it doesn't have to read through everything. It only reads through the things that it needs. So that's things that you can also do multiple. So like if you want to have thing and that, so I can just subscribe to thing and that, and they'll come back in a global sequence number order. I believe the top one's still subscribing to all. I'll just have it go all. So let's do, so both of these subscribers will pick up that. Okay, and they'll also both pick up thing. Okay, but if another, only the top one, because it's just looking at all events. that make sense?
Yep.
So just a few different ways you can subscribe, and just example implementations are available.
One last thing. So if I want to change the storage in that command RangeDB main, do I pass a flag, or do I have to create like my own entry point with the configuration I wanted?
That's a good question. I'll show you. So I'll have these things. Let's see. Which one do you want to see, LevelDB or Postgres?
Postgres is fine. Yeah.
Okay. So Postgres, you pass in. You have to set up environment variables.
Okay.
And then if they're in this example, if they are passed in, then it sets up a Postgres one.
So you're just checking like if I have particular environment variables and stuff like that, then you're gonna swap the providers.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean then that we are depending of the available providers so far? So the more we add, the easier it becomes to swap it in the future. Cool.
Yep.
Okay, I get it. All right.
And you don't have to, like, this is just an example way of starting a RangeDB server. Like, you could assemble it however you want. If
Right.
Right.
I think in the future, I don't know how complex will be, but creating an abstraction that is that simple of like, here it is an entry that just pass in a store and set up loggers or whatever, something like that would be amazing in the future. But again, I haven't taken a look at the code. Maybe it's not needed right now.
Okay, well, there's 130,000 events in the Postgres store, and you can see that. Let's just put in any kind of event. Postgres isn't as fast as in-memory. In-memory was really fast, right? And then I can show you LevelDB as well. So let's look at LevelDB. You just tell it a directory where to store the files. Tom, by the way, the LevelDB, I optimized it. It now seeks to the global sequence number. So it starts up really fast.
Oh, awesome. For the snapshotting.
Yeah, so every query now will seek. So if you want to subscribe to global sequence number 1 million, it seeks to it almost immediately, which is super nice.
Oh, so it does have built-in the snapshotting, right?
For projections, there is a tool to do snapshotting. It's not great. I've had some issues with it, but it's kind of a separate component that you still have to, for your projection, you implement load and store. And basically, we can walk through it if you want to see it, but I really wanted to show you the Postgres store. There's a lot of things in the Postgres one. there's a ton of them, but it's not as fast as the Postgres implementation. Like it's probably half the speed on my laptop, but the in-memory one is super fast. So it's pretty swappable. I've been pretty happy with the Postgres one, to be honest. It's really nice, and it kind of all three of these to be an event store all depend on this RangeDB thing running. So you either need gRPC, the API. So there's also a web API. Right? You can make curl requests. There's 248 events in another. So I can make a curl request to this. Right? That's a big JSON object. If I don't want it as a one big JSON object, I can get it as an ND JSON object, which is a lot easier to consume billions of records because it's like a record and then a new line. Say again?
What is ND? What does it mean?
New line delimited.
Got it. Okay.
Because if you just ask for, if you just ask for the JSON, it's one big thing. So you'd have
you have to parse the entire thing. Yep.
All in, or you'd have to write some fancy smartness to look at when you got to write your own tokenizer basically.
Yep.
And there are like some SAC style parsers like that. But ND JSON is a really way. There's also message pack. if you care about that, it's slightly more optimized in how much bits go across the wire. But those are the different ways you can get events out of the system. I don't imagine the API will be used that often. I imagine you'll be using gRPC and WebSockets most likely. WebSockets if you're doing kind of front-end stuff, and gRPC if you're doing most everything else. But here's examples on how to use all of these. Let's see. If you go to examples, here's all the HTTP API examples. We just walked through how to get all the events. You make a curl request to /events.json, and then this is the output you get. If you request ND JSON, you would get a new line delimited without this kind of big list. The WebSockets, if you want to stream all the events. You make a request to the WebSockets IP address / events, and then you do all the fancy WebSockets work. You have to have your own dialer, so it's kind of built in to go if you need something to upgrade the HTTP protocol. gRPC the same way, get all the events. Go is the only language right now, but there's a proto file. You could probably generate it in your own language if you want to use something else.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, would be cool if we eventually, use maybe just leverage like the Google protobuf generator for all the languages, like Node.js, Java, whatever. Like just start from there and then see how it looks like.
In addition to that, I would prefer, since this whole project is kind of based around this store interface, and I wouldn't want to deal with gRPC if I was working with this. I would want to start working on this, use the in-memory store for local development until I got something kind of working. And then now I want it's pointing to a remote server. Well, there's actually another implementation. There's a remote store, which uses gRPC under the hood. So you don't even have to know that gRPC is there to use the remote store.
In Golang.
In Go.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, I take that one.
That's how this one
for
works,
sure.
Right? For generating random events, I actually use the remote store because it's a lot easier to work with. I can use the save method, the get events method, all that stuff, and all I have to pass it is a gRPC connection, which is, you do your dial, and then that's pretty much it. And now you're working with it as if you had the store locally.
Right.
It's a lot cleaner from a developer standpoint. So those are the different options. I know that it's kind of a lot of different ways to use this, but I think you get a lot of power that way too. With that being said, there are some things that we only have a limited amount of time today. Is there anything on your burning mind that you would like to see added or changed? I've got a few topics in mind. And then if anything jumps out to you, any one of these in particular, let's talk about it in depth. So there's 5 different topics. So one is replacing this subscribe. I've already ripped out subscribe starting with this broadcaster. So the broadcaster is a replacement for using, when an event comes into the store, subscribers need to get it. I don't really explain it. And the only way to make that work is in RangeDB on the save method. I've got to iterate through all the subscribers and then pass it the message. Turns out that can become a problem if they don't consume it right away. And you have to use mutexes, which no bueno. I ran into a lot of problems dealing with this with all the implementations. They all had to implement their own subscription stuff. So I threw it all away and I created this broadcaster. And I'd like to go one step further and just get rid of subscribe altogether and then make broadcaster the default for stores. They all have to return a broadcaster so that things can subscribe to it. Mostly it just deals with using Go routines instead of mutexes. Communicate by, share memory by communicating, not the vice versa. So that's one topic. The other is, I think this is ready to go to release 060. I'm probably just gonna release it today. Right now we're on 05. 060 adds optimistic concurrency, substantially improves the Postgres store, improves performance on LevelDB, adds proper locking in Postgres, and then a host of other things, a host of other changes. We can also talk about when we can release a V1 stable release, when this is ready for us to say, we're confident this can go into production. I think we're close, but that's just another topic. This is what I'm kind of interested in, is treating RangeDB as a standalone client. So instead of having to have a RangeDB server with an HTTP API, gRPC, and WebSocket, you could just have it talk directly to Postgres. That way you wouldn't have to have high availability for a centralized event store. All of your clients could just talk directly to Postgres and treat it as the source of truth for everything, because Postgres supports PubSub. So technically we could make this work and you wouldn't have to have a point of failure being a centralized event store. Even though it communicates with Postgres on the back end, it's still like a single contention point. So that's another topic. And the other one is if we can't agree on what to do, we can just always add improved test coverage. Right now, I think the project is around 95% coverage. We could always make it better.
Yeah, the Aurora Postgres, by the way, that would be a huge win for production ready. At least from my personal experience, many people just want to pay AWS for manage Postgres.
Right, yeah. So we have the Postgres implementation. If we go with this PG Notify, I don't believe that's supported in AWS.
Right.
Now, I think they have event triggers, and I'm not sure what the difference is between RDS and Aurora with those. So I imagine there would be a Postgres implementation with PG Notify, and then maybe a different one for RDS or Aurora. Like kind of splinter this Postgres backend depending on what's happening. So that's definitely an option.
Yeah. From my side, like me toying around, I think the good part that I don't know too much about Go is that the CQRS piece of it. So forget about RangeDB for like 2 minutes. That I think I would like to improve the experience there, because a lot of things are like not disconnected, but they are all over the place, and it's not easy to understand how to plug together. And in some cases, like instead of forcing me to pass like a struct and something that actually the compiler like complains about it, it's not happening for something that commands, right? Like we pass like the command type, like we need to call command type, whatever, and pass the list of that. I did the change where it's like, no, give me the struct of the command, and then I'm gonna figure that out. So I'm gonna force you to implement the interface, but then you don't have to be like calling that function.
Yeah, so if I can kind of show you what you're talking about. So we have a CQRS package, and this is kind of like a little library for building CQRS applications. And there's an example chat application. So that is here. Is this what you're talking about, this chat app, or using this package? Okay.
Yeah, I'm using this as an example. So I'm trying to figure out what is the idiomatic Go, and in between, like how much I definitely had to type and how much is kind of like, well.
As far as idiomatic Go, I don't know if CQRS and event sourcing even is in the same realm. I think they're pretty wildly different concepts.
Right. But most people merge the concept of like aggregates and the command side and that piece of it, and then the read side is.
Sure.
I don't know. I know there are different concepts, but like most people that I see in production, they just kind of like want like a full experience, or at least have the ability to have it when they want it.
Well, I'm not. How can we decompose this?
I think focusing on RangeDB V1 would be better, but it's just something keeping track there. I'm your customer, so I'm like figuring out what's painful for me and what I wish I see when I come to the package.
Right.
So yeah.
Maybe I can talk about how it kind of came to be. So when you're first starting out with a CQRS and event sourcing project, you tend to identify all of the events in the system. And you may go further and look at all of the commands and maybe the read model side. This is an event model, kind of started with event sourcing and then break it up to see where your aggregates are, or your unit of certainty. People to have a hiccup whenever you use the word aggregates. The place where you put the events, that's what this swim lane is, like a user aggregate and then a room aggregate. If we zoom in, we see, well, this is an event for a user being created, and then this terminology, we're saying user was onboarded, to not use the cred words. A user message was sent to a room is an event name. And I always like to start with the events because they're kind of easier to wrap your head around. And if we look at the chat app, we have user events. And in RangeDB, all you have to do is define these structs. What's the content of the message? are they strings, integers, whatever's happening. And then at the top, you can use this tool to generate the rest of the stuff that makes this magic work, which is making it implement the interface of being an event. And being an event means you have a method called event type, which just says what type of event you are. And then you have another couple of things that tell you how the aggregate is supposed to work. What is the aggregate ID for this event? What is the aggregate type for this event? In this example, these are user events. So the aggregate type is user. The aggregate ID will be picked off from this field called user ID. So this generator looks at this user events file, puts it into the chat package, and it uses aggregate ID as user ID, aggregate type as user, and it will put the output into user events gen. So basically it just generates this for you to make it implement the interface so that it can be used as an event. The aggregate type are all user, and then the aggregate ID will be the user ID. That's the stream. Where's this thing? If this event had user ID U1, it's on that aggregate or that stream of events inside the aggregate type. I should probably stop using the word aggregate because people don't like it. Anyways, like, you could just write these like if you wanted and still use RangeDB. Like, that's totally fine. I wouldn't recommend it because it's a lot of duplicate code and ripe for problems. But once you've defined these events, now you can start using them in interesting ways. The way I started was I started writing tests. And let's look at the room events. So there's a lot of room events. Room was onboarded, room was joined, message was sent to room. Let's look at some tests that deal with message sending to room. So this is the BDD framework. It's a BDD package that just, it returns a test case that can be used inside of Go's test suite runners. So just kind of gloss over this. It has a given, when, then section. Given takes previous events, when takes a command, and then it looks at the database and says, okay, what events came out of this system whenever you applied this structure. You can define that with an event model. You look at this stream and how all these events took place. You can put them and organize them in given, when, then events. Like, given a user was onboarded, or actually, given a user was onboarded, given the user joined a room, they sent the message to the room. Then a message was emitted. That's kind of the structure you would expect. So given a user was onboarded, his name is John. We created a room, which is room general. I use these constants at the top just so I don't have to use strings all over the place. It's a little easier to manage. We're always using the same user ID of this long EU ID. So John was onboarded, the room was onboarded, and then John sent this message to the room. Or actually, this is a command to send a message to the room. And we expect this event to be popped out. Message was sent to room. So you can organize your entire application, or at least the test, in this structure and implement it however you want. That's how I started. And then slowly, obviously I didn't just create this BDD framework out of nothing. I started with a more XUnit style testing strategy, but it kind of morphed into this, and I really like this style a lot better. It helps to define all of the different features of this chat application, and I can run them really fast. Like they run in like less than a second, most likely, because they're all using an in-memory database. So they ran in 300 milliseconds. That's like pretty decent.
Yeah, but go to the aggregate real quick.
Mm-hmm.
The user aggregate.
User aggregate. User.
Yeah,
aggregate.
the one who's here. For example, there was a low function, right?
Oh, at the bottom, right? These are things that are going to be generated. You don't have to type these.
Right, but
yep. Go ahead.
Real quick there. shouldn't you always do that apply event all the time from inside the CQRS? Like if you go to a CQRS where you say like, I left the comment and like that apply thing, I think it should happen all the time, right? I don't need to write that for loop. If I forget to write the for loop, like what's gonna happen? This type of thing is kind of like why do I have to bother?
Yeah, everything below this line, once this CQRS package is complete, you won't have to type it. You only have to type things up here.
Okay. Cool.
You'll type onboard user. You know, we could even go as far as generating a lot of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like we have the user events, we have the user commands. I haven't written the generation for this yet. There's a version of it, but I didn't want to put it in this application just yet.
Right.
We could generate the aggregate from these commands, and you wouldn't even have to write all of the boilerplate for that either. You just fill in all of your logic. Like, you know, if you want to onboard a user and they've already been onboarded, then we just ignore that command. Mm-hmm. And then all you're doing is raising events based on things. So let's look at the room aggregate. It does a little bit more work. You will have to do the apply because that's how you build up your state of the aggregate.
Right.
And one caveat is you have to use pointers to these things. And one of the biggest pain points of this project was dealing with Go and its use of pointers whenever you marshal and unmarshal out of JSON. So all that work has been taken care of as long as you know to use pointers to check the type. It'd be nice if we didn't have to do that, but maybe that's for the future. But you have to write your own apply, how you build your state, and you determine how to build your state up here. And then to, let's see, where's the, you just write each method to accept a command. So each one of these are commands. Let's see, send message to room. You have to use this is the only bit of duplication. You know, the name of, since Go doesn't support parametric polymorphism, we can't have an accept that has different commands. Like other languages can do that, like C#, which is kind of nice. And whatever. Maybe we can generate some of this. I don't know. I'm not too worried.
I think for the most part, having like the apply that expects any record event, and then I cast it is fine. And then having like an on or handle event or something like that, and then I cast it and do it is fine. The problem is kind of like, why do I have this like load that I cannot forget to do the for loop and call the apply? So like that have to happen in the aggregate concept.
Yeah.
How most people do is kind of like why this was here.
It's identical.
That's for the most part what,
This is identical code, and it can be generated. There's nothing stopping writing something that can just do this for you and spit this part out. We don't need to. You don't need to write the handle, right? We can go look at all of the commands and see what who manages those commands can all happen inside of this aggregate, and all of this code can just be generated. Whenever you get a command that is of this type, just call the join room, and then all you need to do is write this function. Right. We can totally do all that. That's on my plate to do. It's just lower priority than getting RangeDB into production ready state.
Yep.
But yeah, you're right. This was painful because you write the same thing over and over, and it's like this can be generated.
Right. And yeah, same there. Like in the command types, which is where like whatever, and then you call the command type. What I changed inside is kind of like, no, just give me the struct. I'm gonna call that from you inside. Yep. Even when you can generate it, like don't do that. Work with structures instead of like strings everywhere. At least that's what I would do, but that's something I changed. It's like an array of commands instead of an array of a string.
Right. This is required for the guts of the CQRS package. So whenever you add your aggregates, you need to know like who's going to handle this command, and that's where you wire everything up.
Yep. The other one in this function is that you cannot have one aggregate handling. You cannot have one command being handled by multiple aggregates, right? So I kind of add like a check in there, like if you already registered the command, don't do it again.
That was something that was added to support. I wanted that to be supported in this project because I needed it on another one. That was on another project. That's where this command authorization kind of happens, or the command bus. I don't know if that's right, but it worked on the GoAuth2 project, so I just carried it over to the CQRS project. I was really building this the CQRS package so that I can move it over to the GoAuth2 project.
Yep.
Because right now it does its own, like, write your own CQRS package, and it's kind of monotonous to do that for every application you're going to build. Like, and yet people don't like frameworks or libraries. I'm like, well, I'm just going to stop talking about them and just build them and use them. If people want to use them, fine. I don't care.
Yeah, and my perspective, and this is why I didn't use any of the code gen, is kind of like, even though I know it's there, before I use any package and abstraction and thing that makes my life easier, personally I like to understand what the heck is going on. So that's why I went through the pain and like, look, in the worst case, this is the pain, and like, how can we mitigate it? If it's possible, if it's not, then it's fine. We document it at least or something like that, so people are aware of common gotcha and stuff like that.
Cool. Well, that's the CQRS stuff. I think it's a really helpful package. I don't know that the project that Tom and I are using at work, I don't think we're going to be using this package. I think we're just going to be using projections independently and then using the store to save events. That's pretty much how it's going to be used.
Yep.
Likely we're going to venture into this standalone client realm where we don't even use gRPC at all. We just give it a Postgres point and use it, because Postgres supports advisory locks, and we use that to lock the streams, and it's really fast to insert. It's really happy with the performance of Postgres so far.
Cool. Yeah, that's it for me. Sorry about it with this, like we're like, I don't know, things that you're not using or whatever. Just
No, I'm glad you brought it up, because I had the exact same pain points you did. That's why I put in this to-do, is like, hey, I don't want to have to, where is the thing? I don't want to have to type load all the time. That's stupid. That has nothing to do with the domain. That's a bunch of accidental complexity that is required to build up the state of the aggregate so it can actually do any work. I really care about writing these if statements on how to make these commands and events flow through the system.
Yep. Yeah, idiomatic, like, this is related to something else, but I asked in the community, like, why they use it like command boss, and then the answer was kind of like, well, it's common in terms of like having an architecture pattern where everything goes there, and then you do authorization and tracing or whatever there, I guess. Right. But then other people is kind of like, well, if you don't want it, don't add it. Just add your domain module and like just call it the function. You already know what function you needed at the end, and add the wrappers around those functions. So that was interesting as well.
Yeah, I've read through some of the replies. It seemed like, at least the take that I got was, we use a bus so we don't have to know all of the services in the system. The bus can like accept the commands and then deliver them to where they're supposed to go. I kind of perceived it as, well, what if you want to take action before a command even gets through, and you don't want to deal with sagas and like really complex process managers? That's where I thought, well, I'll just slip in and just have these pre-command authorization handlers. And like, say you want to have to take an action and you want to do some authorization, and you don't necessarily want to write that logic in your aggregate, you could do that somewhere else. Maybe maybe the events that control your authorization live in a different stream and in a different aggregate land. Well, that's where your bus could come in, and it could pick it off and then allow it through if it passes all the checks.
Yeah.
That was my take. I don't know if it's right, and I haven't read anywhere to do it that way. It was just, that was the solution to make it work. And
yeah,
like right here, like rejecting a command if they've been banned, because join room is on the room aggregate, but the user being banned is on the user aggregate. So those are two different streams, and they try to join the, how do you check if someone can join a room on the room aggregate if the room doesn't know the user's been banned?
Right.
Maybe you ban the user and put that event on the room, but really we're just banning the user and the whole system. So you might do that, and I purposely chose this really thin slice of a chat application to demonstrate how do I solve this problem of rejecting this join room command. I don't know if I actually finished that part. It's probably the next piece I need to work on.
Yeah, I have an answer from commanded, which is in Elixir, and the guy actually have an example where since you have the command boss, he have a process, which is kind of like where you check that cache, or is part of the validation layer. So that process sitting there in front of all the commands and then checking like for like join room, go here and validate that some read model is in particular turned on, and then let it pass. So that was really handy with the command boss. Having that command bus, so I definitely see that side. But then like writing software, for example, like says all those branching logic and publishing events and whatever goes all the way up to the manager. So in the managers where you're supposed to, okay, read here, can you pass, then go to the next microservice or service, which will be the aggregate. But I think it's kind of like depends on your architecture style.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad that's the case, because that's the path I took here. And so I guess that at least some form of validation that I'm not the only person doing this. I definitely prefer that style than having some type of saga that has to do coordination. And yeah, I don't know. We've talked a lot about the CQRS package. Let's move on to a different topic. Tom, is there anything burning on your mind that you'd like to, do you want to see us write some code? Do you want to talk more about this project?
I was just doing some browsing to see if PG Notify was allowed on RDS. I found like this Stack Overflow where this guy's detailing out that he is using it in his architecture. So I'm assuming it's supported. But I guess like curious, like what do you think needs to be addressed for a V1 stable release? Like what are those boxes that need to be ticked before?
For V1 stable, I want all mutexes out of the stores. And right now I believe there aren't any mutexes in the Postgres impl. And let me just give you, just show what I'm talking about. Let me do the in-memory store. So in memory, we kind of have to have mutex. At some point you have to lock, right? Do you want to write that code, or do you want that to happen on the back end? And that's where this read-write mutex has to happen in the in-memory store. This thing is locked every time we save an event. So when someone wants to save events, we have to lock the world, and that's not great. Luckily, in-memory is really fast storage. So this isn't that big of a performance penalty, and it's only going to be used in testing and initial proof of concepts. So I'm not too worried about the in-memory store having a mutex. The level DB store, oh, by the way, they also have a lock on subscribers, and I want that to go away. I want to kill that with fire so fast. It's had so many problems, and I've almost done with getting subscribers out of the stores. That's where the broadcaster comes in, using channels instead of mutexes. The level DB store does not have, oh yes, it still has a mux. Is it still being used? Yep, so we still have to lock the world with level DB. I'm not happy about that. The Postgres store does not lock the world.
Yeah, that's where
it only has the subscriber mux. So before I'm happy to call this V1, I want to get this out. I want to get this read-write mutex, and that's where the broadcaster getting that in there. Instead of, let me just go up to the implementation or the interface. There used to be subscribe starting with, and that got taken out. I want this gone too. I would rather have something that returns a broadcaster.
What would be is that trying to implement the outbox pattern type of thing?
I'm not familiar with that pattern. The broadcaster, I can just show you the code. Broadcaster has these different methods, which deals with subscriptions, right? It accepts a record. It subscribes to all events, unsubscribes, subscribes to aggregate types, and unsubscribes. So it handles those a lot better, and it has 0 mutexes. It's using all channels. So there's a channel for subscribing, channel for unsubscribing, a channel of buffered records. So when the store is saving, it doesn't wait for all the subscribers to receive them like RangeDB used to do. It was a lot slower, a lot of lock contention happening. So now saves can happen, and it can shove the records into this buffer, and the broadcaster can have time to send it to all the subscribers. And those will all have buffers as well, so you're not waiting on any individual subscriber. Let's see. Yeah, so the way that this thing works is it starts up and it runs this, it starts up in a Go routine, and it loops forever, listening for anyone that subscribes. And before, you would had to have done, you know, mux.lock, because
Right.
I'm touching this map, and it's not thread safe or whatever the term is. My brain's not working. Anyways, if you use channels, then you can access this in a thread safe way. It's still not the right word, but Go routine safe or something like that.
Like concurrent.
Correct.
Yeah.
So you have two channels for subscribing and unsubscribing. Same thing for subscribing to aggregate types and unsubscribing from aggregate types. And then receiving buffered records and then stopping. So this is where all the magic works, and broadcasting just attempts to go through all of the event listeners, and there's a timeout. So if an event listener subscriber doesn't receive the event fast enough, we stop it and move on. I think the timeout right now is, what is the duration? Oh, it's now you customize it.
I see.
And then we go through all of the aggregate type subscribers and then send them the events if they subscribe to this aggregate type. So if I'm looking for all user events, then I'll only get those and I won't get the other ones. This is way cleaner. It made the test. I don't see any more failing tests now due to the lock contentions. So happy with this. There's also a record subscriber that uses the broadcaster. And this is where the replay happens. And this is what I just removed like this week out of all of the stores. Before, they had logic to subscribe and then replay all events from a given point in time. Usually 0, usually you give all the events. And that's really difficult to do, because if there's 1 million records and I read records from 0 to 1 million and then I subscribe, but there are new records being added. Like, how do you stop the world so that I don't lose events?
Right.
And I'm using channels in this way. I first go grab all of the records starting from the position that you give me, so say 0. Then I subscribe, and then I catch up any events that may have been written since the last time I got events. And then in my subscription, I check to see if my global sequence number is, if any event that's come in to me, I've already seen, I ignore them.
Right.
Basically, I should probably make this say, have I seen this event? Probably be a better thing than putting a comment in there. But this logic used to be in each of the implementations, and they were bad. And it was duplicate, it was copied everywhere, and it was too much to maintain. Now it's all here. So now the broadcaster and the record subscribers and like all that's separate. And what I want to happen is each store to just return one of these things, and like, don't worry about that stuff anymore. Just let that be easier.
Nice.
In order to get to that state, I had to make things a little worse, just a tiny amount of planned technical debt. So creating a record subscriber isn't the most clean way of doing it. I've made some helpers. So for example, in the WebSocket API, to subscribe to all events, so we get a request to get /events, and it will read all the previous events and subscribe to all new ones from a point in time from the global sequence number they give us. And this is how you have to set it up. It's a lot of work for, hey, I just want to start from this global sequence number. And it's because you have to pass it a store and a broadcaster and the buffer size that I want to work with, which is probably 20 in this case. All of this can be removed if the stores just return a broadcaster, right? And then you just give it a subscriber and then you're done. We'll get there soon. I'm not sure what I broke in here, but there's a red line somewhere, but whatever. I rambled on for so long, I forgot what we were talking about.
Yeah, so like stable release. So
Yes, they were.
Stable release, we need to get all of the mutexes out of the Postgres store, and that's where getting these subscribers, because the store does not need to manage the subscribers. That can be like a separate thing that can be more tuned, and like,
right.
the Postgres store should be about Postgres, not about subscriptions.
So like all mutex is removed, the subscribe removed, and implement the broadcaster.
Right. And what was added, Tom and I added this a day or two ago, which was locking the stream. So we go into Postgres and do an advisory lock. An advisory lock is an application level lock. In this case, we use the exact, which is tied to the transaction. So we're on a transaction, we're executing this select command to get a lock for this lock key. Lock key is just turning the stream into an integer. I think they support 64-bit, but the API that we're using only supports 32-bit. That's why we're using a 32-bit thing. So we're taking this aggregate ID, turning it into a number, and then using an advisory lock. And it's surprisingly effective. It doesn't lock the whole world. It just locks the stream so that we can increment the stream sequence number effectively. And what that means is in the Postgres database, there's a record table, and then there's a global sequence number, and that's managed by Postgres on how to get a new number every time you insert a record. But managing what the stream sequence number is an application concern. If we put it in Postgres, we could have problems with transactions and querying the latest stream sequence number and having that happen all the time. Like, it would be really slow. And so what we do is we do a batch insert. Actually, I think it's in the prepare. Sorry if I'm scrolling around too fast. We get the next stream sequence number, where is that? We get the next stream sequence number. We select max stream sequence number. Right now we're in a transaction and we're locked. So anyone working on this stream will block, like it's an application advisory lock, right? So we get the next stream sequence number, and we create these records ready to be inserted, and we just take the next one and then add it to a count. So we're manually ticking it forward. This is the riskiest part, but because we're in this advisory lock, I think this is safe. I would rather do it this way than have it in SQL. That just scares me. It seems like it'd be slow. I know Tom had some concerns about this, and I was doing this with global sequence number, and it was just a bad idea. But yeah, that's how it works. Batch insert inserts into the record with all these values, and then it returns global sequence numbers. And that global sequence number, it's a bunch of them. And so what we have to do is we have to go and row scan the response of this query for insert to get all the numbers back. You could probably just assume that they're in order, but I think it's safer to do it this way, to let the database tell me what those numbers are and then recombine them before we tell subscribers what happened. And that happens down here, notify subscribers. It re-injects the global sequence numbers into those records and then tells all the subscribers what happened. There's tests around this, and it's working, so it's okay. In the future, we can likely switch to a model where we're using PG notify or event triggers to do this. Might be faster than all this extra cruft that has to happen. But as far as stability, once this mux is out of the Postgres store, I'm happy to slap a v1 on RangeDB saying Postgres is the preferred, level DB is experimental, the event store is experimental. There's an event store implementation on a different branch, by the way. So if you really like event store and you still want to use it as a backend, you can use RangeDB on the front. Since they support some of the things that I didn't know they didn't support. There's an event store DB gRPC implementation, which is kind of cool.
A quick question, Jamie. Do you give me the sequence number, the next sequence number for the stream when I do the append?
So when you
give me that back?
Save events. I don't believe there's a response on save.
Because it's, yeah, okay, so here's the, if you give me that number back, I can continue and figure out what's the next expectation of the sequence number without re-creating the.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. We create the database one time. Like we create a transaction, then we lock inside of Postgres. We make that query to lock, and then we select, give me the max stream sequence number from record for the stream. A stream is the aggregate type and aggregate ID together.
But I'm talking from like my usage, right? I'm like RangeDB save these events with the optimistic concurrency number 5, which is I expect that to be the number. And then from the response, you give me back what's going to be the next one. Could be 10, 11, like, I don't know.
Oh.
Of course, it depends on the number of things I insert or whatever, but that's why for the most part, like event store, for example, they give you in the response of the saving events, the optimistic concurrent or the next sequence number for that stream. So you don't have to be calculating or anything. It's just like, okay, here you go, keep going, append 1 or whatever.
Right. Right now, optimistic concurrency is on the stream. It's not the global sequence number. It's just the stream sequence number.
No, I'm talking to the stream, not the global.
Right.
Yeah.
So say there's 5 events in the stream right now, and I'm an aggregate, and I build my state, and I've got all those 5. My view of the world is 5. That's my magic number, and I want to insert 3 more in. So I save 3 events using RangeDB. I don't have to worry about the numbers, other than knowing that I'm currently on 5, and the next one is 6. I think you have to put in 6. I forgot the exact mechanism, but I tell RangeDB with OptimisticSave what the expected stream sequence number is. There's no response other than, yes, it worked. And now you can just assume that you can do math. You're currently on version 8. I can likely change it, OptimisticSave, to return you the stream number, but I feel like it's like this number plus the length of this.
Right, but that's assuming that I have something that keep track of all those things and stuff like that.
Yeah, if you call OptimisticSave. Oh, I don't have. It's how do you see? Verify store maybe. So we persist 1 event, and we pass in expected stream number is 0. And that works because there's no previous events in the stream. Persist second event after the, so we have, we save 1 event to the store, and then we optimistically save a second event.
Right, but you see, you know in your head that was supposed to be 1. What I'm saying is, let's say you do 2-3 calls of the optimistic save. You could use a response of the previous call and say, hey, here's a new number. Save it where you want it and then increment it or whatever is the logic, but I don't have to keep track of like where I'm at. Like you told me, hey, here's where you're at. Again, like do whatever you want with that number. So yeah, so something like that.
So return the number, the next. I guess what would it be? The latest.
That is where like it depends on how you're going to implement it. Some people's kind of like, yeah, I'm gonna do the +1 for you, or I think an event store you do the +1 in your side. I'm not sure, but yeah, the idea is that, right? Because otherwise I have to keep track of where I'm at and stuff like that, and I think that's why they added there.
Let's do it right now. Why not?
But I mean, like, what happens if you have 2 clients? They're going to have
that is why, for the most part, I give you a number back. Because you could retry it again. Here's the next number.
I see.
Right.
So if I have 2 clients going in, and one gets back a 5, right, and then this other client uses the 5 and sends it, but now 5's not valid.
Right. But which one's the next one? I don't know. So that's why I give it back to you, so you could retry if you want it. Yeah. So you could do those type of logic. Does that make sense?
No. I'm with you.
Got it.
Okay, let's look at, let's just explore what it looks like. There's no harm in at least trying it. Oops. We can do OptimisticSave. So let's run this for just OptimisticSave. All right. Did it run? Error running. What did I do wrong? Just run for the whole package. That's, oh, I know what's wrong. Okay. I need to edit this in memory. Not it here. The way the store tests are set up is that there's a helper package called verify store. And it's not super convenient to just run the individual tests because they run for every store. So all the stores have to implement this thing. What I want to do is not run those, break the world, and then have to implement this thing returning a number.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what you want this to do is there's no events in the store, and I save one event. Should I expect this to be 1?
That's the thing. Do you want the people to do the +1 in their side, or you do it in your side?
It'd be like this. And
Yep.
Yeah.
1 last, and it's going to be a uint64.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Okay. That means I need to change the store to return 64. Okay, and that means the in-memory store is now broken because it does not return. Here, let's just do it this way. uint64. OptimisticSave. Benchmark is going crazy. Just ignore it for right now. Just a compile time thing we don't really care about. Okay, so that worked. That's the API we want to have.
Yep.
What about for saving the next one? I should have skipped instead of, well, uncommenting means, yeah, whatever. What do we call it? Last? Is that what this really is? That number 1?
Yeah.
Last, okay.
It would be, yeah.
Yeah, like the last event saved.
Yeah,
right?
It's kind of like where is the state in terms of the sequence number. That is what that number is.
Yeah.
So I can do +1 in my end and say I'm gonna expect this, not +1. I'm gonna expect that the last state that you told me you were at is the same when I'm trying to write again. So that way multiple clients competing or whatever, if we try stuff like that, you figure it out.
Now I'm concerned about this expected stream sequence number because we're not passing in the current version, we're passing in the next current version. Maybe that should change too.
For the most part, what I expect is you need to be in this state. Otherwise, you force me to be like, do I have a list of inserting 3 things? Remember that conversation? So I think an event store, what they do is kind of like, look, this is the number that you expect to be at before you do the insert.
Yep.
So that way you don't even like, I see that you're doing like the checking of the expected version per event. What I see people do is actually they just do it once.
Do it once.
And they lock, right? So you say, hey,
yep.
Are you in this state? Yes. Lock, write everything, unlock, and keep going. But they don't do it per thing where you have to keep track of the next thing, like in a loop or something like that. So yeah, that number will be kind of like, are you in this state?
Okay, let's go through this one more time. So the first one, there's no events. We save an event. The expected stream sequence number is 0, and actually this should be 0 because it's 0 based.
Yeah, right. It should be 0 because that's the last record written, right?
You have to take off.
Yeah, sorry, I need to take off.
No prize. We'll continue on this.
I would. Yeah, I don't know. My implementation in like randomly I do the count, like the length of the thingy, and that's it. But yeah, I don't know. Okay, guys, I need to hang up. I'm sorry.
Okay. thank you for it. This is great. I appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. Bye-bye.
See ya.
Yeah.
So Tom, this kind of dives into this topic of zero-based. Right now, there's no events in the stream. We save one. Is the last stream sequence number is now 0.
Right. You just set it to 0.
It's almost always going to, it won't equal this all the time. This is like the expected next stream sequence number is really what that is. Yeah. Let me just put this back to 0. Let's do the next example. So we've got one event in the store. That event is stream 0, stream sequence number 0. The next one we're trying to save, event number 2, is stream sequence number 1. That's the expected. And then this should be 1. Now it's going to fail because I'm hard coding 0. So what do we do here? We have, maybe we just return save events. We can make it return those 2.
Yeah, that's what.
And should save do it as well? Just make that part of the API?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they're both using the same.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Function, right?
Yeah. I just don't want to change too much in this kind of temporary world we're living in.
No, I understand.
It's okay. Yeah, I don't have a problem trying it. It's easy to roll back if it's a problem.
Yeah.
So this thing, missing events. It's going to cause some major compile time issues because all around the world is doing save.
Yeah.
Let's ignore it for right now because it's going to be too costly to change save.
Yeah.
We can always add it later.
Yeah, let's.
And then for now, we just have this one just.
See the benefit first.
Okay. So save events, we still have to do this unmatched. This is where 0 kind of becomes a problem.
Good. Yeah, because that technically can be a stream sequence number.
I don't want to use 0 to represent something though.
Yeah.
In this case, you have to return a number. You can't return nil. So
right.
I guess we could make it a pointer, but
that's what I was gonna say.
Do you really make it a pointer?
No, I just
last stream. Now, how do we know what the last stream sequence number was?
Isn't it the last save event?
What is data? What does save event return? A bunch of bytes.
Wouldn't it be the next stream sequence number?
Maybe. It's this. So we're saving an event, Is that being passed in? Next streams, where is that?
Right there.
Expected stream sequence number. So it's equivalent to expected, but I don't know if expected is always set. We could just have save event return the number too.
Yeah.
This is just the the in-memory implementation. It's not the. Okay, and this is going to be the next stream sequence. Or I could do record just to be more explicit, and then just bubble it up.
Yep.
Save event, and this will be the
last. Yep.
And then make it available down at the bottom by doing this.
Or you could call it current stream sequence number.
Kind of like last, because it says this is the last one that we
wrote.
What happened here? Oh, because, we got to use it?
Yeah.
I thought we did. Oh, it's because you're doing this. And now we got to make data
and
an error not be shadowed.
Yep.
All right, what is data? It's a slice of bytes or something. One of the more annoying things with Go is if you want to do something like this. Yeah, that should pass. Okay, that passes. A lot of extra work for the. God, what is the benefit? Because it's always this number plus the length minus 1. Let's just keep going and see how it turns out.
Yeah, I think it's just like I understand the point. Like as a client, like I would want some sort of validation, I guess.
Just
to where
convenience. I'm okay with it. If it's a convenience, that's fine.
I think it's more convenient than
right. So there's no events in the system, and we're saving 2. The expected stream sequence number is going to be 0 for this one, and this is 1. So the last should be 1. So that should pass. Yep. Okay. Fails. There's some failure stuff. And those are going to be probably, what, 0?
Yep.
We could make it nil and make it a pointer.
It might be better.
So we expect the failure states to be nil.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if it fails. Okay. Then we got to change this to be a pointer. But you may have one. Nil is such a dirty thing. Dirty, dirty, dirty. Pointer. Can you return? I don't even know if you can do that.
You can return nil.
I would have to do that.
Yep. And then just nil.
Unless save event returns that, then we can do it. Pointer. Then we wouldn't have to do that.
Yes.
Make this be a pointer up. No, we didn't set it up at the top to be a pointer. That's not where you do it.
There you go.
Let's just let the compiler tell me where to go now. It's so much easier to lean on it than anything else. Pointer. And then I can do nil. I like that better.
Yeah.
Just make sure all of the
same.
Anything else? No. And then this thing just needs to be the reference to it.
Yeah.
It just feels so dirty. I don't think I like that. I think I'd rather see it's more idiomatic in Go to return the 0 value. But in RangeDB, 0 represents an actual number. This is another reason why we should have 1-based.
So should we make that change and then implement this where it's not a pointer and 0 is not a valid number?
Do this. That's going to take a long time. So much stuff depends on 0 basing.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have to do the Postgres hack of we could just use big serial.
Yeah. We could get rid of this, the custom sequence number.
And then 0 could actually mean something. I don't like 0 representing nothing, but it's kind of idiomatic, and I'd rather stay idiomatic if possible, whether I like it or not. So I'm definitely not down with the nil. I don't like that.
Yeah.
I'd rather be this. But we can change optimistic to return the number and then come back later and leave these error conditions as 0, and then I don't know if that makes any sense.
I mean, that does make, especially in the Go world, where if something returns an error, you just check if it's nil. And if it's not, then you handle it, right? But I think the object that you always get back from something is a 0-based, unless it's a pointer.
Yeah, and for a number, like returning the pointer to it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
I just can't wrap my head around that. People know and go that doesn't mean, like, there's an error and just ignore whatever is happening.
Yeah, I don't even care
value.
about the response because there's an error.
Yeah, I think this is a cleaner API. Couple more places. Store, because it doesn't implement. Oh, did I not do it over here? Okay. Let's see. Another failure state. And what is it going to be? The same thing, 0? I misspell it. And how many more are there? I'm kind of tired. We don't have to go all the way until 5. I don't imagine there's much value in, if anyone's still watching, to see us do some boring stuff.
You just want to go try that 3-wood, I know.
Dude, I can't wait to hit that thing. It came in right as I had a meeting. Like, oh, I'm going to cancel this meeting so bad. Just walk outside and hit it a couple times. I don't care where the ball goes.
Yeah, I mean, we can end early, and if you want like another 5-10 minutes, it's fine.
We'll wrap this up, and
Yeah,
I don't know if I'll have time to add it to the other stores. We can try. We could probably just no, I don't like doing that. I don't want to take shortcuts anymore.
yeah.
You could just do that. You paste something in.
Yeah, that was the Stack Overflow. The guy was asking a different way to do it, but it seems like he's leveraging the pub sub in Amazon AWS RDS.
Yeah, because why would Amazon want you to use something that you could use anywhere else? They want you to be locked in. Their business model is vendor lock-in.
Yeah.
I mean, it's reasonable. RangeDB is the exact opposite. Use whatever you want.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's okay. I'm okay with this returning the sequence number. Let's see what broke across the board. Everything. Shouldn't be too hard to make them work though.
Right.
Ooh. The failing store doesn't implement it correctly. That's just.
Oh, because it's, yeah.
Wait a minute.
That's just a mock, right?
Yeah, it just doesn't have the
right response. Yeah.
I wish Golang, if it was after, Golang has a nice. Oh, I have an idea.
There you go.
All right.
PG sync.
What is this? Maybe we add it to the response.
Yep.
I don't want to do it right now.
No.
I'll come back to it.
Just
store. Which store is it? That doesn't work. Oh, because I have lots of stores, maybe. The remote store. Okay. It's hard to navigate to them because they don't implement the interface anymore, so they're kind of lost.
oh, right. Yeah, you have to rely on the compiler.
Oh, we will have to implement. Yeah, we can't get away with that to do because the remote store needs it. This is worth, I think we need to spend extra time on this, and it'll get you exposed to protobufs.
Yeah.
So
Down.
make the compiler stop complaining, and then I'll show you how to add that stuff.
Yeah.
It's actually not that hard once you've done it before. Return 0. Return 0. All right, we'll skip it and come back because I think the other ones are going to be level DB store. Going to make it work. Let's just run this one because it's going to have some work to it. Let's go to the store. OptimisticSave. And so many error conditions. We just find all the returns and just pick it on there.
Yep.
Where do I, oops. How do we get the last stream sequence number? Next.
That's only saving one event, right?
And it iterates.
Oh.
And next expected stream sequence number, we could probably just leverage that value.
Yeah.
If it's not nil, we increment. Oh, we can't. We'd have to do -1. I don't want to do that. How about we do the same thing we did before? Our last stream sequence number. And then we just set it each time if it's completed. Unless we want to make save event return it. It's probably cleaner to have save event return it like we did before. Even though we'd have to add some of these in here.
Yep.
It's a private method, and
It's fine.
I think it's just a tiny bit more expressive because we say record dot. Because if someone comes in and changes how this works and they don't know that that's happening,
yes,
that's, and by someone I mean me.
No, well,
when I screw up.
No. I mean, it's you make up a good point.
And then we have to do this silly thing again.
Yep. Byte array or slice.
Byte slice, and then all right, and that we get rid of this thing. Might seem trivial, but I've seen it bite pretty hard. That worked. Cool.
That's sick.
What else is there? Postgres store is likely going to be broken. Still quite a few things. Damn. It's like I've been refactoring for like a month now. OptimisticSave. We just ignore it for now. Do we return it? I wonder if we should return it.
Yeah, I think that's what he.
But we can get by with this, ignoring this to do.
Yeah.
But
yep.
But the gRPC one, we have to do it. Okay, here's the Postgres one. This is the more fun one. How do I go to the Postgres one? Just, oh yeah, I have a thing for that. Postmark. Hey, where'd it go? I keep losing it. I don't understand.
Oh yeah.
Postgres requires environment variables, and I have a
like shortcut thing.
Yeah, and I lose it every time. I don't know why it keeps happening. I save it as project file, but I lose it.
Weird.
All right, Postgres unit tests. All right, where the hell is it? Optimistic. Let's go to it. Save events, make it do it too. And then use another shortcut. All returns. That's a lot of returns.
Yeah.
It's too many for a function. And this needs to be the last stream. Not very idiomatic and go to have long variable names, but sometimes I'm not very idiomatic.
Yeah. I prefer a lengthy name of exactly what it is.
Batch events. I guess batch insert could return the last one and just continue that trend of what we've been doing.
Mm-hmm.
Stream sequence number. And we have each time we go through,
it just assigns it.
because I don't think we only return the global, we don't return the stream because that's an application concern.
Mm-hmm.
0, 0. We need to set it at some point, probably here.
Batch event.
No, we gotta do it up there.
Oh, inside.
Yep.
Yep.
Do you have access to batch the last one?
Yeah, you should.
No, because it was defined internally here. This green
event.
color, I believe, means it's shadowing. If we did that and we make the batch event a variable, you would have access outside, but this is scoped inside this for.
Well, you should be able to pick off the last one with batch events.
We could. This is fine.
But
I think it's
yeah,
okay. It's a tiny amount of extra work. What just happened? Batch insert, last stream. Okay, I think that's it for the Postgres one. Zero last. Almost done. No tests were run. What?
Why?
I don't know. This is being weird.
There we go.
All right. Now it's running the Postgres ones. Private is failing. UN64.
Yeah.
Okay, what else? WebSocket failing store does not implement the.
Oh, right, signature.
Man, this is a lot of work. We're making quick work of it. I wouldn't want to do this in something like them. Okay, now we're back to the remote store.
Yeah.
Now we have to do it. So save, there is no response, I don't believe. Or is there? Ooh, there's a response. I wasn't using it. It tells you how many events were saved. We probably should say last stream. Should probably have that. And so we can't add it to this because this is a generated file.
I see.
Generated by Protect GenGo. I need to undo. Where I can add it is, where is this thing called?
Right.
I'll find the save request. It's in .proto. Proto is the protocol buffer stuff. Save response. They both use. So I'm really glad we're going to change save to have both because They both use the same one. Last. No, I wish they weren't using the same one. UN64. And there's a README on how to build this thing. You have to install protobuf, and then you run this build protofile script. So let's run that. This installs it and generates the files. Now the files are generated. And now we should have access to LastStreamSequenceNumber. It generated this part. Protocol buffers is really cool.
Yeah, I gotta check that out.
Why is failing event store still 0? And we just added LastStreamSequenceNumber to OptimisticSave. Oh, one failed. What happened? Actual 0. I wonder if that was, this is the remote store. I wonder if there's some issue. We underscored something down in the past. Where is it? Here, I get my to-dos over here. Wait, what? Project to-dos, there we go.
Yeah.
Provider. Maybe it's in packages, gRPC. There it is. We got to add it to the response. What is this thing? UN64 last.
Yeah. And then you have to add it. Yep. That's pretty cool.
It wasn't a whole lot of work to
do that.
Yep. Well, the gRPC side. Oh, now we have, now this thing breaks because I have an example that is my living documentation. And it's complaining because, wait, it said last stream sequence number 2. Like, well, let's do that. And hopefully that's the last thing.
Boom.
Nope, another one. They must have fell fast. Wait, did I not get the exact number of spaces and stuff in there? Are they? What did I do wrong here? Got this, want this.
Yeah, just copy it.
I thought I did copy it. What the heck happened? Not like tab instead of a space? What am I doing wrong here?
I don't.
Is there a comma? No. Oh, there's a comma. Okay. It's a JSON output. Needed a comma. For some reason, I thought it was a print R or something. Okay. Yeah, wow, that was a lot of. It was really simple to do, but it was a lot of stuff to. Still have this. Say the API. I feel like we need to add it. Like, I don't like kicking the can too far down the road.
Yeah.
Luckily, there's some tests for this. We can either go to which one would you rather see, the example test or the unit test? If the example test would be like this, save events, and it would tell us
the status, right?
Yeah, right here. So
yeah.
Like, I think there's a pretty print. What was that last one we saw? JSON tools, pretty JSON. Let's grab it.
Pretty JSON.
And we can just run just this test. Be a little faster.
Yeah.
And we want it to be status. Get it working before we add the last. Should it also say how many events were saved? Because the gRPC one does.
That's what I was about to say.
What's that? Look at another space. Okay. All right, now it passes, and we want it to say
event saved.
Last.
Yeah.
I don't know. What kind of case do you want?
I like camel case.
Or Pascal.
Or that's Pascal. Yeah, that's fine.
What
I
should it
don't.
be? 0, 1?
You
Oh,
see
wait.
Yeah.
I think it's 1.
Yeah.
Unless there's no, yeah, there's no. All right, how do we make that work? I feel like the unit test would be better, but sometimes it's fun to change it up a little.
Yeah.
All right, last stream number. And it'll just be 0 for saves. We won't deal with that. Created status okay. Probably better to JSON encode, but F%D. I think that'll make it work.
Yeah.
But it made the test fail because the unit tests are expecting.
Right. But the documentation test should be working, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it passed. All right, let's see if that works. Yeah, it looks like I'm testing the whole API package instead of that one thing.
Yep.
Just keep adding these in. Comma. Saving one event. Yep. How many are we saving here? Saving 2 events, so it's 1.
Mm-hmm.
When we come back and change it from 0 to 1 base, we'll have to change all these numbers. Oh, I forgot to put
that's
1.
Yeah.
Little bit of what's this style testing called? Characterization testing.
Huh?
Got 0, expected 1. Am I hard coding the
0?
Oh, is this because of save? Save. Wait, where am I? This isn't optimistic. And save just returns 0.
I see.
Does save return the number? How hard do you think it'll be to add it? Probably not as bad since it's almost done everywhere.
Yeah.
Shit. Let's just do it like this.
430, 440. They're fine.
I think we can change signature and all implementations. Add default value of 0. Name is going to be, I don't want to name it, unit 64. So that's what it's going to look, wait, no, not a parameter. So I'm doing a change signature refactoring, and I want to change result parameters.
There you go.
And add type unit 64 and add it before error. So now it looks like that.
Oh man.
Refactor, all of them. Should have done this before. I don't know why I forgot about that. But it shoves in 0 everywhere. So it's kind of what I was manually doing.
Right.
But now this is gonna not be good.
Oh, because now you're getting more back.
You know how many places call save and expect it to only return an error? 50 places.
Yeah. That's I mean, it's just gonna be a lot of.
Got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
That's why we weren't going to do it earlier.
Yeah.
It's 4:40. Think we can do it in 20 minutes?
I don't know. That's cutting it. I mean,
I wish there was a
got
way
nothing
to.
else to do.
I can find all the places that have this and like change it pretty rapidly.
Yeah.
But we need a helper to save events because they all have to create a context. Let's just do it. I'm already in RangeDB test. So let's do, we can put in verify store is fine. All the way at the bottom. Save events. It's going to take a t star testing.t so that it passes that in. It will take a store and then these things.
About record. Mm-hmm.
If I could spell correctly. And why is this complaining? Oh. I wonder if there's a special way you could just wrap this in like a function that picks off the thing and returns the thing you want. Oh yeah, this is where I wanted to do the work. So ignore error, and then that. I think there's a.
Why is it complaining about the
Pointer to event.
do you not need to spread it?
No, you don't.
Yeah.
Oh, because I didn't do it there. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
And I put the dots in the wrong spot.
That's hot. Yeah.
I think there's a different way to do this. Like I could have a function that takes the store save. It's probably better. It takes a I don't know what to call it just yet. It takes a Unit64 and an error, and then it returns an error. So like we just ignore this thing.
I see.
So this could be basically require no error. Yeah, so I could make, this is the wrong name, obviously.
Right.
Ignore first, ignore. I don't know what to call it. Would you rather have the save events or all these places in red become ignore first? I kind of like the save events better.
Yeah, it's more
kind of expressive.
Yeah.
This is a kind of a hack.
Yeah.
Because then it sticks this timeout context in here and it doesn't muddy up the tests.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's go to the top. Whoops, whoops, whoops. So every place that has this thing all over the place becomes say events t store, and then that might have some places that have an extra thing, but we can fix them. It's easier to fix than
yeah.
Fix a bunch of them at once. That's a lot cleaner than that silly thing. CTX, hopefully it'll tell us which ones aren't used, and I can get rid of them. Okay. Maybe I can find, no, that's the only one like that. Maybe anyone that looks like that. Yeah. Okay. Now we're back into all of the implementations. Well, they should already have it. Why was that failing again? Step event saver. Because event saver has to be able to save an event and return an error. Event.
Is that another like mock? Yeah.
And then event saver. What is on here?
Yeah, right.
And then all the places, yeah, these are the ones I wanted to get rid of anyways.
Yeah.
Like, these are contexts that we didn't care about. All right. Oh god, we gotta do all these too. These turn into RangeDB save events, RangeDB test. So it's slightly not as awesome. There's only a couple. And no CTX. Oh. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Comma. Oops. And we don't need the CTX anymore. God, this is going to go on forever. Every freaking place does this.
Yeah.
Print error. This is probably one of the more annoying ones. I've got a helper function that prints errors. I could make it take an interface, and I don't want to do that. I needed a way for tests to output if there's ever a problem.
You're right.
And print error was the quickest way to make that work. I guess it's not that bad. This is where that ignore thing would be nice.
Yes.
You can add it. What was it called?
Ignore first.
Yeah. It's a uint64 and an error, and returns an error. Ignore first num.
Yeah.
Error. Okay. All right. So every place that has that, just a couple, we just do this. It's going to be across a bunch of files, so I can't edit them all at the same time.
I see.
I don't think that distracts from. Oh, I am. If people are looking at this documentation.
No.
I can't return this. It's a good refactoring. I think this is better. I don't know why I didn't think of doing it in the beginning. I shouldn't be afraid to. Okay, here we go. Now we got the thing that we want. So we saved 2 events. It should be 1.
For, you know?
And it said 0. So the API needs a change to include that number.
Yep.
I should pass it. Did it not pass it? Request save 1, 2. Save event. I'm making a call to the API. Am I in save events? You can say save events. I guess optimistic is inside of here, and that's where we did the switching. Store save is ignoring it. That's what we did. All of them are ignoring it. care about that one. That one. 0. So we just need to return. How many are like that? All of them. I guess I can just edit it over here. Return 0. I need to edit it up here. Easier to read. All right. What was the trick we did? Client save response. There it is. All right. Oh, but we were working in the, oh, that's right, okay. Got last stream sequence number 1. We saved 2 events, that's correct. Just add it. We're gonna do the pretty thing. JSON tools pretty. And it should be, yep. Almost. What am I missing again? Comma? What did I do wrong? Oh, it was spaced. All right, cross our fingers. I imagine there's other stuff that's, oh, it's gonna be all over the place. It's so many places save. Like 50, I think, was wildly underestimated. It's probably like hundreds. All right. All these places that do C would be RangeDB test.save events T, and then we take a store, and then we get rid of that. UI test, oh my God. What did we do here? It was called replace first number or something. You remember what it was called? You're muted in case.
Ignore first number.
Ignore first number, thanks.
Yeah. I was wondering why you weren't responding.
Oh, is that not, does that not live here? There it is. Let's copy it.
Yep.
Oh man. I know we say this every time, but can you imagine doing this without an IDE?
No. Well, I was saying like without tests, how do you do this, you know?
Oh yeah, without the unit test?
Yeah.
That's, I don't even understand that world anymore.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't, you'd be afraid to do it.
Exactly.
That's a smell. Like I was afraid to change the save method. Like I should have already had that helper to save.
Right.
Because that's enough duplication all over the place that it could just be handled by something else. Here's another one you can do. You can do find all the places that have this and
Extract and function.
find replace in files. Replace all of those with, this ought to be a lot faster. What was it called? Ignore first number.
Yep.
Replace all. 13 places. But I'll still have to go back and add these in, but they're a lot easier than all that typing.
Yeah.
And the compiler will tell me where to put them.
Yep.
Like there. Ignore first number doesn't exist here. It's just a little bit of duplication. It's okay.
Yeah.
I'm dealing with the duplication because it makes it easier for the person to consume it.
Mm-hmm.
So I know it's wrong, but there's a trade-off. Because if you're just looking at example codes, you don't really care about, you don't want to see a lot of other things that aren't related.
Right.
And it's already bloated enough. All right.
Almost.
Less than 5 minutes. I don't know if we can pull it off.
I think we got it.
So
I don't know. No, maybe
so
not.
many of them.
Yeah.
I don't have the store. Where was it? I hope it's store.
Yeah.
And then I'll just have to fix all these. There's lots of them. I can probably do, don't need the CTX anymore, which is nice. I think that broke something else. Man, it's too many tests. Events.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be too hard to do a cross. Are they all in this one file?
Yeah.
The machine is going crazy. All this compiled. Probably a bunch of other stuff in the background going on. Hey, really close though. Only
I know.
2 packages that are failing.
2 packages, 2 minutes.
All right, one more package. Oh, it's opened up more. It's just a never-ending.
That's the problem.
The test suite is too large.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
All right. No, it's the only one. Don't need that context anymore. Oh, there's more broken here. What are these? Oh, CTXs.
Yeah.
I wish I could find all the ones that aren't used and just remove them.
Mm-hmm.
Get on that, JetBrains. Make that easier for me.
There's another one.
What was the fast way to do that one? Just try it again. Nope, this needs to be. It's really safe save or, yeah, I don't know what to call it. WebSocket, a bunch of these.
Oh.
All right, we're at 5. I don't want to go too much over if I can avoid it.
Yeah.
I'd be so happy if this thing was just
What context?
done. Oh, that's not right. There's only one in here.
Let's see what happens.
I blame Yordis. This is a lot of work. Boring work.
Yeah, he pitched the idea and then he's like, "Oh, I'm out."
It was a good idea.
Yeah.
It was a good idea.
No, I know.
Oh, this is gotta be the last one.
Just the CTX.
Oh, that's it.
Oh man.
So that was adding last stream sequence number
To the response.
Oh my God. Across, like in the web API, gRPC, is it in WebSockets? I bet the WebSockets are ignoring it.
Yeah.
Benchmarking doesn't care. CQRS, failing event store. I was going to
Yeah.
get all events. Okay, added stuff in there for the protogen.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a new line?
Yeah.
The one didn't have it. Need a new line. Yeah. I'll try to go quickly. I don't think we need to. The test, I feel pretty confident that it's going to do what we expect.
Yeah.
I'm just looking for places that we ignored. Like here. Like these tests should be using that. This was the automated refactoring. I'm okay with those though.
Yeah.
These don't bother me. Because there's already a. I wonder if it pulled it out and the refactoring just magically did that for us. I think that's what happened. I'm glad we do that on save then.
Yeah.
Last, okay, return last. Return from the record, yep. Yeah, I don't care about that. Yep, last stream. Oops, I want to look at that one. Remote store. You get the response, yep. 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 What's happening here? This is in
RangeDB server.
we need to add it here.
Yeah.
Oh crap, I hit X. It's all right. How did we not have a test for this?
Oh no.
All right, I'm gonna call it, and we got very close. It's been really fun to get it completely done, but I'm pretty exhausted. And this is really
yeah.
long.
Yeah, but you caught that, right?
Yeah, I'll go and add it, and then I imagine after this is going in, I'll call this 060 and release it.
Okay.
But
cool.
Thanks for helping me get through this and being
awesome
a sounding board.
No, yeah, anytime.
I'm just glad the package got better today. So that's all I can ask for.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, Tom.
See you, man.
Yeah.